Hey Lifers, Dustin here, and today I want to take a look at another entry into my What If College Football series. But before I do, I want to give a huge shout out to every single one of you guys. The response to my last one was overwhelming. I believe it broke my all-time comments record on a video, so that was incredible. I had like 80 comments, maybe 90 comments on that video, so thank you for all of your suggestions. I am probably going to double up on some of these for a couple of weeks just to kind of get out some of the ones that I had planned, as well as some of the ones that you guys had requested and asked about, because the response was way more than I was anticipating. So thank you so much. You guys are awesome. So with that being said, in this video, I want to take a look at what would happen if Ohio State quarterback Braxton Miller never got injured and what that would have done to Ohio State's national championship hopes in 2014. Just a disclaimer, obviously, there's no way to know this. This is based on my personal opinion. This is how I think one possible timeline in an alternate world, an alternate reality, could have gone if Braxton Miller got hurt. I got comments in my last video saying, well, you can't really, you don't know what would happen in the future. Yeah, I know I don't know what would happen in the future. That's the whole point of this little thought experiment in this video, is to try to playfully talk about what could have happened, and mostly to get input from you guys on what you think would happen. Braxton Miller stepped onto Ohio State's campus in the fall of 2011 as a freshman behind senior quarterback Joe Bowserman. In the Week 4 game against Colorado, Miller was named the starter and had 83 yards rushing and 83 yards passing in a 37-17 win over Colorado. The team would finish the 2011 season 6-7 under interim head coach Luke Fickell, including losing their last 4, but Braxton Miller was named the Big Ten's Freshman of the Year for 2011, and they would announce later in the year that a little-known coach named Urban Meyer would come to the team in 2012. In the 2012 season, in Urban Meyer's first year with the program, the Buckeyes were ineligible to postseason play due to academic rulings by the NCAA, which that included no Big Ten championship and no bowl game. The Buckeyes didn't really care and went 12-0 anyway, including Braxton Miller's 3,300 total yards and 28 total touchdowns. In 2013, yet again, Miller led the Buckeyes to an undefeated regular season as quarterback. This time he ran and passed for over 3,000 yards and 36 total touchdowns. The team would lose the Big Ten championship game to Michigan State and the 2014 Orange Bowl against Clemson. It was during this Orange Bowl against the Tigers that Braxton Miller would suffer an injury in the fourth quarter to a shoulder. He seemed hurt for most of the second half, but apparently a hit by Spencer Shuey in the fourth quarter on a touchdown pass, incidentally, is what actually caused the shoulder damage. After the game, Braxton Miller told people that he had a shoulder injury as well as a cracked rib. Miller did have off-season surgery on that shoulder, and he was medically cleared to go and said he felt great, but he re-injured that same shoulder in fall camp in a non-contact play. This injury caused Miller to miss the entirety of the 2014 season, during which JT Barrett was named the starting quarterback, and through like 11 plus games was the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes before he broke his ankle in the game against Michigan. Third stringer Cardale Jones stepped in against Michigan to finish out the win, and then famously beat Wisconsin 59-0 in the Big Ten championship game. And then Alabama 42-35 in the Sugar Bowl in the college football playoff semifinal. And then they went on to beat Oregon in a game that wasn't really that close for most of the game to win the 2014 national championship game and the very first ever college football playoff. At the beginning of the 2015 season, arguably the most watched and most anticipated quarterback battle in the history of college football took place between Miller, Barrett, and Jones. And as fall camp progressed, Braxton Miller found himself falling further and further behind the other two. So the decision was made by both him and the coaching staff, to switch to wide receiver. And he finished the 2015 season with 341 yards and 3 touchdowns. But what if he didn't? What if instead of getting hurt in the Orange Bowl or aggravating that injury during fall camp, he would have been healthy the entire time? What if Braxton Miller had entered the 2014 season as the Buckeyes starting quarterback and didn't get injured the entire season? Now, this is going to keep in mind the fact that at the end of the day, Braxton Miller was the third string quarterback right, in the eyes of Urban Meyer and his staff. So we're going to assume that the talents and understanding of the offense by Cardale Jones and JT Barrett is better than Braxton Miller's. Looking back on it, the 2014 Ohio State schedule in the regular season wasn't really that difficult. I will say that their early season loss against Virginia Tech should have never happened. That Tech team finished 7-6, and I do believe with a more experienced quarterback in that game, in Braxton Miller, they probably would have beaten the Hokies. Here's the rest of their regular season schedule. Kent State, Cincinnati, Maryland, Rutgers, a 2-overtime win at eventual 7-6 Penn State, Illinois, Minnesota, Indiana, and against a 5-7 Michigan team. Now, you may have noticed when you were looking over that I had actually skipped the Michigan State game, and that is because Michigan State had actually beaten Ohio State the year before with Braxton Miller as quarterback. With the game now being in East Lansing, I actually think JT Barrett would have fared better against Michigan State than Braxton Miller did, but I know it's a team game and they still won, so I'm actually going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say that Ohio State, for the third year in a row, finished the regular season undefeated. The problem, however, in my opinion, comes in the Big Ten championship game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm in the know of Ohio State football. I don't pretend that I can gauge the feeling of the team or anything like that. But as an outsider in the fall of 2014, I felt that the team really rallied around third-string quarterback Cardale Jones after JT Barrett's ankle injury against Michigan. He was new, he was talented, he was brash, and the team embraced him, rallied around that injury from JT Barrett, and crushed Wisconsin. I'm not entirely certain that happens in this alternate timeline. I still think Ohio State beats Wisconsin. They were way too talented of a team not to. I certainly don't think with Braxton Miller it's 59-0. It's probably closer to like 38-24, 31-20, something like that. Certainly not near the confidence booster that beating a team 59-0 in a conference championship game will give you. And I'm sorry, Buckeye fans, if you watch this expecting everything to be great news, this is probably where I anger you a little bit. So we're going to assume everything else in the world, butterfly effect and all that, but everything else in the world went the same way that it did, and number 4 Ohio State is matched up against number 1 Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, just as they were in our timeline. I think Alabama wins. Nick Saban is known for being really good at getting his defense to really kind of unravel and get under the skin of opposing quarterbacks, especially when you give him a lot of time to prepare. Now, that doesn't always mean anything. Trevor Knight and Oklahoma ran all over Alabama in the Sugar Bowl the year prior, but when you have 3 years worth of tape, really 4 years worth of tape on somebody in Braxton Miller, you can find ways to exploit some of his weaknesses, and you can figure out ways to get in his head and disrupt him. Now, Ezekiel Elliott is a freak of nature. Ezekiel Elliott would have still gotten a couple touchdowns, would have still ran for over 100 yards, would have still really, really, really pissed off Nick Saban, and the Ohio State defense, with all those eventual NFL draft picks back there, would still have picked off Blake Sims. But I definitely don't think it would have been nearly as bad as it was. Part of the reason why Blake Sims, in my opinion, threw all of those interceptions is because Cardale Jones, being the athletic wild card that he was, turned a 21-6 Alabama lead in the second quarter into a 34-21 third quarter deficit for the Tide. Now Alabama felt like they had to play catch-up in a big stage, and they are certainly not used to doing that. Nick Saban would much rather have just run the ball, and bleed the clock. I have this feeling that Nick Saban really hates passing the ball, that he wishes he could have played in like the 1970s where everybody just ran all the time and he could have a wishbone offense. Alas, Nick, that's not how it works. You have to throw, and especially when you're down in double digits to a really, really good team with a really good defense and a really good offense with a running back that just could not be stopped, you have to throw the football, and that's where some of those interceptions happened. In this timeline, up 21-6 with Braxton Miller, who knows the offense, who knows the plays, but isn't quite as athletic and is way more scouted by the Alabama defense than Cardale Jones is. Alabama uses TJ Yeldon and Derrick Henry to bleed the clock in the second half and win a very close Sugar Bowl. We finally get the match that most of us have been wanting for years and years and years, and that's Alabama against Oregon. I think Alabama does mostly what Ohio State does and runs Oregon out of the building. Sorry, Ducks fans. And Alabama wins their third national championship in 4 years, including the very first playoff. Nick Saban is at the top of the world. When you win 3 out of 4 national championships and 4 out of 6, I believe it would have been at the time, what is there left to prove? Feeling like he has accomplished all there is to do at this level of college football, Nick Saban decides to leave Alabama and join the New York Giants as their head coach after they fired Tom Coughlin after a 6-10 season. In our timeline, they actually fired Tom Coughlin the year after this whole thing, after the 2015 season, but if they had the chance to get Nick Saban, they would have fired Tom Coughlin. Instead of knowing what Cardale Jones and JT Barrett are capable of in 2014, 2015 begins with a quarterback competition that I feel like probably would have gone much the same way as it did before the 2014 season. And the 2015 Ohio State Buckeyes would have seen the dawn of JT Barrett, who probably could have been redshirted and would have an extra year of eligibility. So, yeah. That is, in my opinion, one possible outcome if Braxton Miller did not get injured. Ironically, him getting injured might have been for the best for Ohio State football, which is really weird to think about. But who knows? Maybe he came in with so much experience and so much drive after 2 undefeated regular seasons, and he wasn't going to let it take him away. I just feel like he gets scouted too much, and he did have some weaknesses in his game, which I believe Alabama's defense could have exploited the same way that Clemson's defense exploited, except Alabama's would have been way more talented than Clemson's. With all that being said, guys, let me know down in the comment section what you think would have happened had Braxton Miller not gotten injured. Do you think they still would have gone on to win the national championship? Because they very well could have. Do you think it would have ended up with Alabama winning and Nick Saban going to the pros? Let me know what you think down below. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I already had this idea in mind before I got y'all's incredible response. So I will be doing more videos on some of the things that you guys want me to take a look at possible timelines of. So make sure to let me know down below some of your suggestions, and maybe, just maybe, I'll make a video about it. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can click the circle right there in order to subscribe, or watch more videos over there to the right that YouTube has suggested for you. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time. Try to playfully talk about what could have happened, and mostly to get input from you guys on what you think would happen. Braxton Miller stepped onto Ohio State's campus in the fall of 2011 as a freshman behind senior quarterback Joe Bowserman. In the Week 4 game against Colorado, Miller was named the starter and had 83 yards, way more than I was anticipating, so thank you so much. You guys are awesome. So with that being said, in this video, I want to take a look at what would happen if Ohio State quarterback Braxton Miller never got injured and what that would have done to Ohio State's national championship hopes in 2014. Just a disclaimer, obviously, there's no way to know this. This is based on my personal... Hey lifers, Dustin here, and today I want to take a look at another entry into my What If college football series. But before I do, I want to give a huge shout out to every single one of you guys. The response to my last one was overwhelming. I believe it broke my all-time comments record on a video. So, personal opinion, this is how I think one possible timeline in an alternate world, an alternate reality, could have gone if Braxton Miller got hurt. I got comments in my last video saying, well, you can't really, you don't know what would happen in the future. Yeah, I know I don't know what would happen in the future. That's the whole point of this little thought experiment in this video, is to show that was incredible. I had like 80 comments, maybe 90 comments on that video. So thank you for all of your suggestions. I am probably going to double up on some of these for a couple of weeks just to kind of get out some of the ones that I had planned, as well as some of the ones that you guys had requested and asked about, because the response was